Well, Covey, are you going to eat all my cartridges today? Yeah, I'll tell you what. I know you want to go for a run, and I promise we'll do it, but you just have to let me finish this video, okay? And then we'll be ready to go. Can you handle that? We'll maybe even let you chase the kitty cat or something if we can find one. Yeah. Hey, yesterday, Covey pointed. I walked over, 8 pheasants. A covey of 8 3/4 grown pheasants. I think we've got ourselves a fall to look forward to, Covey, right? Okay. Well, you go downstairs now, and then we'll go outside later. Bye. Hey, everybody. Ron Spomer with Covey Dog. Got an interesting topic today that's probably going to stir up more trouble than it's worth. It's definitely going to be controversial. I don't think I'll solve anything, but by golly, I'll sure get it stirred up, and you guys can weigh in on this stuff because this is one of the most contentious issues in hunting and shooting. And this is what it is. The myth of knockdown power. Stay tuned. Well, I want to thank our patrons on Patreon once again for supporting us and making these videos possible. Really appreciate it. If you would like to join the Ron Spomer Outdoors community on Patreon, just go to patreon.com and Ron Spomer Outdoors. We appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Well, today's topic is sure to stimulate some conversation and maybe some angry words, but it's something we really need to tackle, and that is the myth of knockdown power. I'm sorry, guys, but I know that the ammo makers and the gun makers have been trying to sell us on knockdown power for decades. You know, this probably goes back to a couple of cavemen arguing about whether a 1-pound rock thrown really hard or a 10-pound rock dropped out of the tree is the more efficient killer. Well, the same thing roughly applies to bullets today. It's just that we throw our rocks a lot faster, and thank goodness they're a lot lighter. But is there really knockdown power? There really isn't, guys. I'm sorry, but you get an animal much bigger than a rabbit, and I have seen bullets carrying a couple thousand foot-pounds of energy hit those animals and not push them anywhere. They just don't knock them down. I've shot right through jackrabbits with big, heavy 158 grain bullets, and they acted like they weren't even shot. They ran off away and fell over. And of course, we see this all the time with deer. You take a chest shot on a deer or an elk or pretty much any animal, and they run off as if you haven't even hit them, and then they start to run in a circle, they wobble, and they fall over. What was the knockdown energy? Well, what happened, of course, is that the bullet broke down the vital tissues that keep the animal alive, and that's heart and lung, to provide fresh oxygenated blood to the brain. And you don't need your heart to stay alive for several seconds, or your lungs. You can hold your breath, right? But they do open heart surgery, and people are able to survive for quite a while without their heart beating. But after a bit, you sort of run out of juice, and they fall over. It's hemorrhaging that's killing the animal. Unless you hit the central nervous system, really there's no other way to terminate that animal. And knockdown power doesn't do it. And we've seen this many times by using the same bullet with the same amount of energy, hitting an animal in the vitals, and it kills him quickly, but you hit him in a non-vital area, and even if the bullet stays inside and all of that so-called knockdown energy is in there, it doesn't knock him down. And this even applies to the famous stopping rifles for dangerous game. My contention is there's no such thing as a stopping rifle, because you hear way too many stories of the PH and his client pouring 500, 600 grain bullets into a charging buffalo, and they hit him 3, 4, 5, 6 times and don't stop him unless they hit the central nervous system. Or, of course, break down enough of the musculature in the skeleton that the animal can't run anymore. But where's the stopping power? You know, if you've got a 458 lot with a 500 grain bullet on it, and it's carrying about, that's probably 4,500 foot-pounds of energy, why doesn't it stop that charge? And then there's the 500s and the 600s. Goodness. But knockdown energy is just kind of a myth, guys. So I know I'm going to get kickback on this one, and it's probably legitimate. Write in and tell me what you think. But, you know, I think it's tilting at windmills when we insist on trying to find a cartridge in the bullet that's going to kill our deer in its tracks every time. And I see this quite a bit in comments to my videos and blogs and such. Guys will write in and say, well, I've got the ultimate whatever cartridge because every deer I've ever shot knocks them down and kills them right there. It's got incredible knockdown power. Oh, what are you shooting? Oh, a 30-30 or, well, there's not a lot of knockdown power in a 30-30, I'm sorry. But some guys will say it about a 243 Winchester. So what's going on? Well, sometimes we see what appears to be knockdown performance. And this is a result, usually, of hitting the central nervous system. And obviously, a .22 long rifle will do the trick if you hit the brain or the spinal cord, right? You don't need a lot of energy to do that. But the same token, I can take this .458 lot and put that bullet through the lungs of a little white-tailed doe, and she'll probably run off for 50 to 100 yards before she falls over. Because there's knockdown power is not doing it. Now, I'm going to throw some anecdotes at you to see if this makes sense. One of them, football players. Let's take two 250-pound linemen, and they're racing down the field, and they come, bam, hit each other at maybe 15 miles an hour, maybe 20. They are probably producing as much kinetic energy as a 130 grain bullet from a 270 Winchester. But they don't die the way your deer does when you hit it with that bullet. They go back and play another set of downs because knockdown energy isn't what's killing them. It's the bullet getting inside of the deer and damaging its vital organs that's doing the job. Okay, what's another way to look at it? Let's consider knockdown power on an object we can watch. You've probably seen video plenty of times of deer being shot with some pretty significantly heavy rifles, and they sort of shudder or wobble or maybe not even do anything, and then they walk off and fall over. And you may have seen it yourself. I certainly have many times. I shoot and I think, good grief, I couldn't have missed. And then after 5 or 6 seconds, the animal starts to wobble a little bit and he finally falls over. No knockdown power, but we've destroyed the vital organs. That's what's doing the job. Now I'm going to get back to this object that we can test. And I always talk about an old rubber inner tube and fill it up with sand and wire the end shut. Make it about 50 pounds, set it out on a table, and shoot it with your 243, your 308, your 300 Win Mag, or even your .458 lot. I don't care. Whatever shoulder-fired rifle you want to use and whatever bullet weight you want to use, you shoot that 50-pound bag of sand, and I'll bet you it's not going to bounce off that table. You're not going to knock it off the table, guys. Now, this is weird because these cartridges are producing thousands of foot-pounds of energy. So what is a foot-pound of energy? 1 foot-pound of energy, kinetic energy, that's the energy of an object in motion. 1 foot-pound should be enough energy to lift a pound of weight a foot off the ground. So, 300 Win Mag, probably 3,400 foot-pounds of energy. You hit that 50-pound bag of sand, that ought to send it flying, but it doesn't. Same with the .458 lot. You're probably pushing 4,300 foot-pounds of energy. You're not going to knock that thing. You're not going to send it flying. So the stories that we hear, and sometimes we even tell, about the deer that we flipped over on and 10 feet backwards and we just knocked it, it's not happening, guys. I think what you see on some of those that looks like the bullet knocking the animal somewhere is just the physical reaction of the animal being hit and using its muscles to propel itself, but no longer has full control of its faculty, so it doesn't necessarily go the right direction. But I don't know. I've seen it all in over 50 years of big game hunting, and I just have seen no proof that there's knockdown power killing anything. It's the hemorrhaging. So I always advocate chest shots, looking for that good-sized heart-lung area. And I don't advocate central nervous system hits. I know some guys insist the neck shot is the greatest or the head shot is the greatest, but too small of a target and too easily moved. You know, if you're aiming for the head and the deer goes like that, there's your wounding shot or a complete miss. And same with the neck. Deer are up and down. They make those snapping movements. Their chest is pretty much staying there the whole time. So that's much the safer target to hit. And then what happens when your bullet strikes that is, of course, damaging the vital tissues, the heart and lung, and that creates hemorrhaging, and that's what kills the animal. It's the blood loss. And that's why they sometimes run for 100 yards, and you think, oh, that bullet failed. No, it didn't. It caused sufficient hemorrhaging, but the animal can live because its brain's still functional. Without fresh oxygen and fresh blood, it can still survive for several seconds. Generally, it's around that 5 to 10 seconds, depending on how quickly the blood pressure drops. So that's my impression of what I've learned over the years about bullets terminating animals and the myth of knockdown power. Yeah, you might knock down some lightweight objects and maybe send a squirrel flying with a big cartridge, but you're not going to knock a deer down. If it's a 200-pound deer and you're 200 pounds and the rifle's recoil didn't knock you down, that little bullet is not going to have enough energy to knock the deer down. Because for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. The bullet's carrying energy and it loses it as it gets downrange, so it's actually less energy in the bullet than you got on your shoulder. Of course, your rifle absorbs some of the energy too, but it's not knocking you down, it's not going to knock the animal down. So I would just recommend give up on this idea of buying a bigger and bigger cartridge and putting up with the recoil and maybe messing up your shooting accuracy because you're afraid of the recoil, thinking you're going to gain something with that bigger bullet and the knockdown power that really isn't there. There are plenty of tales from outfitters who get clients coming out on their big western mule deer or elk hunt, and they've bought a new super magnum, usually a 300 Weatherby or 300 Winchester, sometimes a 338 or something big and macho, because by golly, they're going to be shooting a bigger animal out west than those whitetails at home. And then they proceed to miss and miss and miss until the outfitter takes their big magnum away and gives them a 243 or a 270, lets them shoot a few targets until they quit flinching, and then they go out and they get their deer or elk. So shot placement, putting the bullet in the right place, that's way more important than knockdown energy. So that's my take on it. I invite you to weigh in and let me know what you think. How you're going to prove it, I don't know, but all the numbers definitely do not. Kinetic energy in a bullet at 4,000 foot-pounds and stuff just doesn't translate to that energy being in the animal or knocking it down. And it doesn't matter if the bullet passes through or stays inside, I still see the same effect. Doesn't knock them down. So that's my take. Love to hear yours. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, Ron Spomer, not knocking anything down, but thanking you for watching. Hunt honest and shoot straight.